Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Sims 4 speed build video. And today I'm going to be creating this realistic British secondary school. And I've been thinking of creating this since August. I knew in my head that back to school was happening, and I knew that I had to create something to do with it. I've done it every year, it's almost becoming a tradition at this moment. And last year I did an American school, so this year I thought I would do a British school, and then maybe next year I'll do a school from Zimbabwe, and maybe the year after I might do a school from, I don't know. I do have an art school in the backlog though, so that probably has to come out as well sometime between this entire mess. I think I've made an Australian high school, I've made a fancy British high school. I also need to do a boarding one. I've never done a boarding school before, and that would be a bit of fun as well. And maybe I might do a sports one at one point as well. There's just so many things you can do with high schools, and yeah, I may not like doing mansions, but I do love doing a high school. But just a quick I don't know, let us say before I really get into this video, one of the reasons why this was delayed because one of the reasons actually it was a hell of a build. It is 7 hours of footage, which realistically, if I wasn't working, if I didn't do a lot of like script writing competitions or anything like that, that could have easily had me going for like 2 days. That is normally a 2 days worth while of a build, but in this instance, it was really hard to find the time because I'm a very busy person this year, very busy compared to last year. And sometimes when I open up The Sims, I just want to play a bit. I don't really want to do anything for the sake of content because then I'll feel like, okay, I need to then follow through and finish this. So sometimes I just go in the game and I finish and I just start just playing whatever. And one thing I have to say I really like about my content creation model, if you want to call me a content creator, I don't really think I am yet, but yeah. One thing I really like about my content creation model is that I vehemently have said before, and I'll continue saying it, unless I really, 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 really like a kit or it's come out free, like sometimes when the Sims comes out with like free stuff, I'm not gonna do content for a kit. But then I saw that we are getting an expansion pack, and normally I would do two to three to sometimes four, sometimes five. I'm feeling pretty inspired on building stuff regarding before and for that expansion pack. But with the level of busyness I'm at, I think I'm going to do like three builds maximum, and it's still going to be one build every week rather than like a short burst of three builds. Because again, the whole time thing, it's I don't want you guys to think that I find this as a hassle because it's not. It's really not. I really love doing it. And I think me uploading less allows me to do such big, expansive builds as I've been doing with or terminal build and now this secondary school, sorry. So I think it kind of works out for both of us. If you like bigger builds, I'm able to do that now compared to what I was able to do before my previous model. Yeah, it did hurt the algorithm on my side, but oh well. I've always done this for the love of the build. A little aside before I really get into talking about this build and the whole process of creating it. Another reason that it took a second is because if you're not aware, there has been. I'm not gonna go too into it because I really would rather just do a video essay and really talk about it so poignantly. But there's been a massive rise of division within the country, a massive rise within internationally, but within the UK, it's been quite big. And as someone who is an immigrant, someone who is the child of immigrants, someone who is friends with people in all types of visa status. I've grown up in these British schools in a way that it was so culturally diverse, even as my secondary school was in maybe in the most diverse town, you could call it, there was always still within the school itself this healthy and beautiful mix of different types of people. And that's what really made the British experience. And for me, it was incredible to have every single time trying different cultures of food. Like we had World Food Day, we did World Dance, we did a lot of history and learnt about different things. And I loved that open view set, and I loved it. There was so much, it was just such a good group. Even my primary school was such a beautiful mix of different types of people. um my A levels was also like that, not as much as my secondary school and primary school, but again it was still like a crazy amazing mix. And there was just a sense of connectivity and positivity and hope for the future that we had. And we all melded so well together through our interests in music, through our interests in TV, through our interests in films, just all sorts of things. We had this cultural consensus within each other. And right now, as I see on the news, as I see on social media, we are becoming more divisive, and there's a lot more hate and a lot more. And the thing is about secondary school, there's always going to be stereotypes. There's always going to be ignorance because those are literal teenagers, they're little children. But now it's got this vitriol that is not, oh, they're culturally insensitive. There is hate, there is violence, there is a lot of things going on in this school. And when creating this build, I it was just before it kind of heightened. And as I was creating it, I just couldn't think. I was like, I don't know how to have, because originally as I was creating it, I was feeling this sense of nostalgia as I was doing it. I was feeling this, I had these rose colored glasses as I was looking into my past, and it was quite a great past. But then as I started creating it, and as everything that is happening within the UK kind of surrounded me, it really made me feel like, oh, well, damn. I, it feels like I'm out of place with my own childhood. I'm out of place. I feel like I'm not part of it anymore. It feels like I'm being extracted from it. It feels like it's something maybe I didn't perceive correctly. Maybe I was looking at it in rose colored glasses. Maybe it has always been this thing. And it didn't make me feel like I have the same amount of. Because when it comes to building stuff in The Sims, regardless, I always want to enjoy the journey, especially when it comes to a realistic build. I always want to join the journey. Um, but it was just a weird sense. I put on some of my favorite shows I watched when growing up. A lot of them are from CBBC, like Wolf Blood, Young Dracula, Waterloo Road. That wasn't on CBBC, that was on BBC. Educated in different areas in the UK. I watched that and I was like, no, I'm not being crazy. My childhood was amazing. My childhood was great, and my childhood was elevated through that, through the different cultures that we had within my experience. So I want to create something that reminisces my childhood, because it did occur, it did exist. And I hope we can one day come to a place where it is like that again, and realize that we are all human, we are all fine, and we all trying to do as best as we can on this floating rock. And yeah, that is, I don't really, I'm not the best at, as you guys have heard my voiceovers, I'm not the best at articulating, that's it. I'm not really the best at articulating my words, so I don't really try and say certain topics, not because I don't care about them, but because if I'm going to talk about them, I want to talk about them not in the background of Sims 4. I want to talk about them in a serious lens, presentation, video essay style. I want to talk about them with full quotes. Just, I want to talk about it in the way that I would talk about it in university, with full seriousness and full research, and just something that is taken into account in terms of cultural sensitivity, in terms of understanding, and to make sure that my views and my biases are made right. And yeah, so I don't really want to do that in the basis, but I do feel like I will start a channel soon, because I feel like I've got a lot of thoughts, and I want to start to discuss them a little bit more, because I feel like it never hurts to have an extra voice out there. pushing for connectivity, and it never hurts to have an extra voice out there that is just trying to say, can we all just have the freedom to have a home? Can we all just have the freedom to leave conflict and exist and be okay? Can we not all just have the freedom to love who we want? Can we not have the freedom to walk around safely? Can we not just have the freedom to just be? I mean, it's I'm trying not to swear, but it's a floating rock for God's sake. It's whatever. We're all gonna die at the end. So like, just a little bit of empathy and a little bit of care, a little bit of, patience, and try and see each other beyond what we look like. Like, you can have empathy for someone who doesn't look exactly like you. I feel like that is basic empathy. I think Peppa Pig even taught us that. I think kids can understand that a lot more than us as humans and our tribalism. But I want to talk more about the build because, again, this is a more serious topic, and this is not something that you really should be discussing in the backdrop of a Sims 4 build, as you see that I struggle to make. But yeah, with creating this build, I wanted to do and honor the 60s architecture that plagues most of British secondary schools. It consistently has that mid-century vibe to them. A lot of you may have seen a lot of British secondary schools and looked at them and been like, oh, this is like, I don't know, it's probably in like really fancy schools from Oxford or really fancy schools from um like the really fancy areas like Cotswolds or something like that. Like really just authentic to British architecture, maybe pre-19th century. No, pre-20th century, because the 1800s and all of that, Victorian architecture and stuff like that. Maybe even Georgian architecture. I know that my primary school was built in the Georgian era, if I'm not mistaken, so it does have a very particular Georgian architecture to it. But my secondary school was built, actually, I don't know when it was built, but the architecture is very reminiscent of mid-century. My A levels was actually shut down in 2003, I think. So that was rebuilt and that has a more contemporary architectural style. But my university was built in the 60s. I feel like it doesn't matter if you guys know what university I went to. I'm so secretive about a lot of things, but I feel like it doesn't matter. I went to Warwick University and that was built in the 60s. That's why I always say I went to a university that is well known for media and film and stuff like that, and that's what I did. But yeah, that was built in the 60s, and that was something that really, it really looks like it when you look at it. And I feel like because of that, and because my secondary school years was when my brain was like logged in, as I would say, like I was conscious mostly. Like primary school, it's just such a haze. But my secondary school, I feel like I was more aware of what things were going on around myself, around my life. And it's in university that was extremely poignant. So I think 60s architecture has plagued my mind a lot, and that's what I was really trying to honor when creating the school. Now, with my secondary school, what you normally would see as well in secondary schools is that they have themes in terms of what color palettes they use. Most of the time, it is, I like to call the West European beige. I think there's a general European beige, but when I talk about a European beige, I don't really think about Spain or Portugal. Those are quite sunny. Even Amsterdam, I think of quite a colorful palette. But when I think of the UK, when I think of Paris, when I think of Germany, there is this kind of like haze of beige and browns, and I love it. I do love it. Especially in the autumn time, it makes you feel very murky and sad. And with a lot of the color palettes in secondary schools, architecture, and sometimes even interior design, there's always like a particular color, and then like bricks and bricks and bricks and bricks. So the particular color sometimes can be white, even though I've seen that more in flats than I've seen in secondary school buildings. And then sometimes there is blue, there is red, there is sorry, my friend said to me before that sometimes when you speak, you kind of like lean into like you're trying to do an American accent, but you're not. I'm trying to enunciate my words. And I feel like, again, when I smile, like, my accent just leans into somewhere that it normally isn't. Like, one day you will hear it in its true form, but not today. Yeah, so sometimes you have white, sometimes you have red, sometimes you have yellow. Yellow, I've seen a lot in primary schools in particular, but most of all, I feel like, and I would like all the people who've grown up in a British secondary school to comment down below. I know I'm really like absolutely terrible at replying to comments, but I do read them, and one day I will sit down and just go through all of them. But I feel like all of you can attest to the fact that we have all had a like particular color in our color palettes for a school, and normally that's also the color of our blazers. If you did have blazers, if you didn't have blazers, sucks to be you. But if you did have blazers, it's normally that. And a lot of people say not having blazers was like a blast, but like, where were you hiding your phone? Where were you putting your earbuds in? Where were you putting your rulers? Your pencil case if it was big enough? Where were you putting your house keys if you didn't have a blazer? Were you like sticking it in your pockets? I feel like that would have been really bulky. Our blazers were so bulky, you could put a water bottle in there if you see that water bottle. That's not how I open it. You could put a water bottle in there if you wanted to. That's how bulky it was. Obviously, also with schools that had blazers, you also had that one person also selling stuff in the playground that really shouldn't be selling stuff. So they were either selling Lucasades or they were selling what do you call them? See, I don't know words half the time. They were selling stationery, specifically if it was before like a mock exam or GCSE. It'll be like, I've got £1 rulers over here, I've got £2 compasses. I remember particularly, especially in maths classes, when your teacher specifically ordered you to make sure you have a compass when you come into class, and or a protractor, and you forgot that, you have to fork out £1 in order to get one from the person selling on the playground, because your teacher would have ripped you a new one for forgetting the one thing that they ordered you to remember to get. But yeah, I feel like if you had a particular school color in your buildings, I feel like that is also what you would have on your blazers. So, for example, my secondary school, our color was blue, so we had blue blazers. But obviously, I made in The Sims green for The Sims, and green is my favorite color. So there is green on the architecture, therefore they have green blazers. Now, I know we have school blazers that came in a high school years. I hate them. I don't like them. They're not bulky, they're form fitted. The thing is about secondary schools in the UK, especially when it comes to blazers, is that it has to be bulky, because this thing, unless it's like made out of money, it has to last you a good few years. And I don't know many people that were getting a new blazer every year. It was most likely that they will get a new blazer maybe every 2 years, because obviously you're going through puberty, you're gonna grow in all sorts of ways. But normally you would just have that one particular blazer, and especially when you're in year 7, it's gonna drown you. So year 7, for anyone who doesn't, let me just tell you what the British secondary school system is, so you have a good idea, because I'm going to be referencing years and sixth forms and all of that. And just in case you guys don't know, here's what we had at my secondary school, and I think this is the norm, but I don't know, it really does depend. Oh, by the way, just before I continue, this thing that I made out of wood, you're probably thinking, especially if you're from America, what is the point of that? I don't know. We had this, we just had it. And to be fair, if I'm going to be completely honest, normally there should be some sort of opening, but I don't know if we did just climb over it sometimes. But this little like wooden box thing we had, it was just there. I think it was to add a little bit of greenery in the space and make sure that no students go in it. But I remember I fell right in it, and everyone could see everything because I was wearing a skirt. It was quite embarrassing, actually. I don't want to think about it. Actually, let's just continue the conversation. But yeah, what was I talking about? School system, the UK British secondary school system. So normally we have year 7 through to year 11, but if your school has a sixth form attached, which I would imagine most schools do, but I don't really know. Apparently I didn't do as much research as I thought I did. You will have a year 7 through to year 13, but sixth form is normally something that you have to apply for separately, so you're not automatically pushed to go into sixth form. Originally in the UK, you didn't have to go to sixth form. or college, now you have to stay in the education system until you're 18. But I think it's been like 15 years maybe since they've changed it, maybe even less. Um, but yeah, initially you could just go to school until 16, and then you can go through your career or do whatever you choose to do. But in this instance, it was year 7 through to year 11, and then you have the sixth form area, and sixth form is year 12 to year 13. Now, what are these years? These years are year 7 is 11 turning 12, so those are the year 7s, those are the people first entering. This is what I would imagine is in American school systems, middle school. But yeah, year 11, turning from 11 turning 12, that is year 7. Year 8 is 13, is 12 turning 13, so obviously that's when you start to become a teenager. At this moment in time, nothing serious, nothing is serious at all. Yes, you may have a few teachers saying, yes, hey, get ready, you're going to be picking your subjects soon, but it's just like nothing's really that serious in year 7 and year 8. Year 9, it gets a little bit more serious when you're 13 turning 14. And I feel like this is the peak of bad behavior for a lot of people. It's the peak of my bad behavior, because that is, again, like the cusp of puberty. That is when you're really getting into um the nitty and gritties of becoming a, a teenager slash an adult. And I feel like a lot of, just an aside, I feel like a lot of grace is not given to a lot of students at that time, because the emotions, the hormones are like everywhere. Yet we expect them to act as if they aren't like basically shape shifting at the moment. It's a very confusing time. You want this independence, but you don't. You feel like you're growing up, but you're really not. And it's just it's a weird mesh, and really we need to be a little more gentle with our teenagers. We really do. Yeah, so year 9 is 13 turning 14, and this is the time where you will be picking what subjects you're gonna do for your GCSE. So I would say your GCSEs, I wouldn't say it's like your SATs, because it's not, because it's just not. We have our version. I wouldn't say it's our version of the SATs, but I know that in year 6 you do your SATs, and your SATs is what decides um basically sometimes where you're gonna go for secondary school, where they're gonna place you. You normally have to do a separate test as well if you're gonna go into grammar school. Grammar school is, I would say, it's more similar to the other British school that I made that looks so regal and royal. It's normally older architectures, and it's normally named after a saint or something, like Saint George or something like that, but not always, not always. And it's normally older architecture, and those grammar schools are for people who have placed in them. So they've done a test and they've seen that you are smart enough to attend this school. It's a really big deal when you're in year 6, because you're like, damn, I didn't get in. I didn't get in particularly. You're like, damn, I didn't get in. I'm not smart enough. But then in university, you're in the same place as everyone else. So it's just, again, also, I want to say this as someone who, I don't think I have anyone who's like below 16 watching this, but if you are, I promise you, all these groups, all these schools, all these things that they place you in and try and tell you whether you're intelligent or not intelligent, whether it's be explicitly or implicitly, it will not matter in university. If you get into the same course as half these people, it does not matter. Like, they might try the tribalism thing again. We have a problem with tribalism. They might try the tribalism thing, but I promise you it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day you're in the same place. We do have SATs in year 6, but they're not ACTs. I would say that the closest thing we have is maybe like our GCSEs, but again we also have our A-level such a BTEC, so it really, again, it depends. But year 9 is when you're going to be picking what subjects you're going to study for the next 2 years for your GCSEs, and your GCSEs is what's going to place you, whether you're going to go to college or whether you're going to go to A-levels. Or again, you can choose to go to college or A-levels, but sometimes A-levels are a little bit more picky in terms of your GCSEs. Again, similar like grammar school, but like I said before, it does not matter once it comes to university. But yeah, so year 9 is normally when you are going to be picking them, and you normally, in my again, I keep saying you normally, in my school, I'm going to say from my experience, our model was you pick between the languages. So my school learned German and French, so you pick between the languages. And then you also pick, I think it's two humanities. I'm not too sure. I think you can pick more. Again, I'm not too sure. But you had to pick between two humanities. So I remember it was either history or it was geography. And then you could pick two other subjects in whatever you like. So that could be your dramas, that could be your food text, that could be your BTEC PE, your arts. And then you have your standard subjects. So you have to do all three sciences and you have to do English lit, English language, English literature, English language, and you have to do maths and you have to do PE. So, but PE, I'm not, unless you pick it as a subject, you won't get assessed in that. They don't assess you in that. But yeah, that's what you normally have. And what a BTEC is, I actually don't know what it is, which is crazy because I did like three for my A levels. But a BTEC is normally a little bit more, I won't say easy, but it's closer to what you would experience in university compared to what you go through in secondary school, where you have coursework as well, and that adds to your grade compared to most subjects and A levels where it would just be your examination is what makes your grade. So if you fail that exam, you failed the entire thing. But in BTECs, if you fail the exam, if your coursework is good enough, you could still pass the BTEC. That's what I assume. If you want to know about what I picked in particular, I picked. It's really crazy to try and remember what I picked for my GCSEs. I remember I initially picked French, but not enough people picked French, so I couldn't do French. I really did want to learn a language. I did really want to learn a language. I also picked history initially, but then there's nothing else I could think of wanting to pick, so then I picked geography in addition to it. But that is like the one subject I didn't want to do because I was supposed to do French, but then they were like, "There's nothing else for you to do, so you might as well do geography." And it was a horrible experience. I hated learning geography. I love the subject. I love learning about the urban side of geography and then learning about the environmental side of geography. I really love learning about the environmental side of geography, but it's just the way you learn it. It wasn't for me. I hated the process of it. It was horrible. And then I picked food technology, which was I think it was food nutrition or something. They changed it to that. And then I picked art. Yeah. And then obviously everything else was mandatory, so I had to do all three sciences in English and maths and PE. But yeah, that's what I did. My best subject was food nutrition, then to art, and then it was history, Englishes, sciences all came the same level. Oh, and maths as well. I was part of the generation. Again, if you studied in the UK, you might know the shift. But I was part of the generation where we changed from letters to numbers. So instead of saying I've got an A grade, you'll say that for A levels, but you wouldn't say that for GCSEs. For GCSEs, you say you got a nine, and a nine is like an A star. So we changed it. I didn't get any nines. No. I got highest was a six, but again, I think I was just overwhelmed. I was just in it for the game. I've always been just like average in everything. I was just in it for the game. I wasn't someone who was like entirely studious. It wasn't like I slacked, I didn't, but I wasn't someone who would get a headache from trying to do my best. I tried to do enough to get to where I needed to go. So to get into A levels, to get into university, to get my degree. But I wouldn't do to the point that I felt like I was hurting my physical health because I feel like I could have tried harder. And honestly, I feel like that should be the mentality. But my physical health perimeter was a lot lower than I feel like a lot of people, or maybe I was just, I don't know. But I just felt like I would easily get these headaches a lot. So I was just like, okay, I would do it enough to where I need to be, but not enough to where I can't be. And then there was just a lot of things I just didn't get. Like, for example, I just really did not get um English language, which is really crazy now that I consistently write scripts and I'm obsessed with reading. But it was just, I think it was just the rules of it. Like, it always felt like when I followed the rules, it felt very repetitive. But when I did it, obviously it didn't make sense. So I felt like that was off, but I really loved history. I did like history. It was a bit boring, but I loved history. And I loved art, even though again art was weirdly very similar to English, where if I followed the rules of it, it felt very boring. But if I didn't follow the rules, it just looked off. So that was a weird mix as well. And but I would say my best with food nutrition. I loved it, and generally heart of hearts, sometimes I say to myself, I wish I could be a chef, but then I love cooking and baking to the point that I don't want anyone to ever ruin it for me by making me do it in a high pressurized environment. So I don't know. We never know. Life is young. You can always just change careers. I don't want to though. I do want to be a film director, but like you get the gist. Sorry, it's just a plane going over my head. Yeah, but that's enough of year nine, of being on year nine for a second. Then we have year 10. Year 10 is when you're 14 turning 15. This is when you're first going to experience your mock exams, and your mock exams is normally to test how your GCSEs are going to be. So normally the summer off, and sometimes winter and summer, you have mock exams, so you have to do examination in a environment very similar to GCSE, so normally in a hall, and you have to do this as if you were taking your GCSE. So you get a timetable, you have to wait outside. Well, I had to wait outside. You have to wait outside, and then it's and then you go in and then they tell you what, and then you get your grades, and that ends up coming up to what's going to be your predicted grades. And your predicted grades is what's going to be on like your report card or your student information, and that is what you would then hand into people in year 11 to like your sixth forms and your colleges, so they can see if they want to accept you. Not the same way that in maybe an American school or the high schools you get, I don't know, but do you get predicted grades? And if you do get predicted grades, I would imagine that's what you have to give off to the universities or your colleges to say, this is what I'm predicted to get. So that's what they'll end up placing you on. So if you predicted A's, they're going to be like, okay, so you can come to Harvard, I would imagine, because you predicted A's. But if you predicted C's, they may say no. So it's your marks that will help you place an A level or college place in year 10. I do not know what my grades were for my marks, so I couldn't tell you guys that. But yeah, and then you go into year 11, and this is going to be the busiest time of your life. For me particularly, I feel like university A levels was a bit difficult, but university was a breeze compared to my GCSEs. I feel like it's also, again, I'm at the cusp of puberty, so my hormones are everywhere. I don't know how to act. I don't know what's going on. So I know that this particular year is when you're gonna have your prom. So you're gonna be 15, turning 16. This is when you're gonna have your prom. This is when you're gonna have your long summer. So normally you fin in UK, you get 6 weeks summer holiday, but you get so many holidays in between, like half term holidays a week, and then you get 2 week holiday. You get a lot of holidays, but you normally have a 6 weeks holiday, which is like July through to September. But in year 11 is when you're gonna have your big holiday. So I think it's like May through to September. So you get that massive break. A lot of people go to camp places. A lot of people go on holidays. A lot of people find themselves a little bit. I mean, as much as you can find yourself as someone who's 16, but that is just basically what goes on in that period. And then that's when you're going to be doing your GCSEs. That's when you're going to be doing the exams that is going to set your path for college and A levels. Again, after you have your it's not called achievements, what is called accreditation, I don't know, there's another word for it. But once you've got your accreditations for your GCSEs, I mean your accreditation for your A levels, your GCSEs, literally no one will ever ask for them ever again. And it's similar when you get your degree, no one's ever going to ask for your A levels or your GCSEs unless it's particular, like very particular, like I really want to know if you know English, like that kind of thing, or I really want to know if you know maths. But again, a lot of jobs, a lot of universities acknowledge that this was a very long time ago, so they normally just make you do a different test for that particular job. Like a lot of jobs I've applied for, I've had to do mathematical tests for those jobs because they acknowledged using my maths GCSEs is going to be basically useless, because that was like what, 7 years ago? No, it was 8 years ago. I'm 24. Ooh, I feel very old. But yeah, it's basically 8 years ago, so you can't really use that. But yeah, I graduated in 2018 from secondary school, but then on top of that, Some secondary schools also have A levels, such A level areas. And the only reason I'm bringing it up in this conversation is because I did build an A level area in this school. It's next to, I wouldn't call it the humanities block because it was supposed to be a humanities block. So normally a humanities block is like got your histories and all da 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 da. Um, because I put arts there, so it's no longer humanities block. But I built it at the humanities block, next to the humanities block, the little green area that is the sixth form area. So that is where all your sixth formers will go. Sixth formers, depending again on your secondary school, can be treated a whole lot differently. So from in my secondary school, sixth formers could wear whatever business looking attire they wanted. So they generally a lot of the times looked like more youthful version of teachers, because again, as teenagers you still don't want to dress like an actual teacher, but you do want to dress, you do have to dress as if you were going into the office. So in my sixth form, my secondary school sixth form, you did have to wear like a lot of suit attires and then a lanyard just so people can know that you are a student, but you're not a teacher. And but my sixth form, which was at a different school, but they also had a secondary. Normally sixth forms have a secondary. You don't have like a sixth form in isolation. If it's a sixth form, it's got a secondary. But if it's not got a secondary, normally it's a college. So our colleges are normally 16 to 18. But you do have certain universities that have different faculties called colleges. Like Oxford has a lot of colleges inside of it, but the overall thing of it is a university. It's a university. Um, so you have a sixth formers wearing a lot of suit attire. They will be wearing a lot of very formal attire, and they'll be wearing lanyards or some form of it. And this is a period where you normally would pick your subjects for sixth form in year 11, and this is the period where you'll be studying and doing mock exams and getting ready to do your final A levels or B techs or both. You can do a combination or you can do them individually. That would then take you off to university. And again, similarly, like GCSEs, B techs I just have a lot more coursework. So my subjects that I picked for A levels, I actually did 4 subjects, which was very wild of me to do. And it was really odd period because this is when we had the pandemic. So it was a really weird period because my first year of sixth form, it's so weird because the pandemic feels like it was just like it was like 2 years ago, but it was actually ages ago. And I am in my mid 20s right now. But the subjects that I did decide picking at that point were film studies. I knew 100% I wanted to do film studies. I was like really set in my mind that I'm gonna go into film, and I think I was kind of like juggling around it for a little bit, but then I was like, no, I'm gonna do film. So it was film studies. It was I did combined sciences, which was a B Tech. So film studies was my only A level, but then I did combined sciences, which was a B Tech. So again, heavy coursework and occasionally exams, but heavy coursework. A levels was particularly exam, and I never got to take the exam for film studies because again pandemic, but I got to do a short film and I got to write about it, which was again the best part. So I don't mind one bit. I then took what else? I did combined sciences, which was all 3 sciences. I took film studies, then I took business studies, which was a BTEC, so majority coursework and all of that. And then I also took what else did I take? And then I also took health and social care because I was thinking to myself, am I gonna honor my parents' wishes and go into the healthcare sector? And I thought the only thing I would particularly be interested in to go into the healthcare sector is psychology, specifically the research part of it rather than the in person part of it. So I want to be part of the studies and try and learn more about psychology rather than like be a therapist or be a psychiatrist and be the diagnosing half of it. But after that, I was just like, no, 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 no. I'm going to do film studies. That's what I want to be. That's where my life is at. Um, and then that's when I ended up picking Warwick as my university, crazily enough. And then I ended up going to Warwick University. So that is a long rant about the British school system and my journey. Well, I didn't actually even talk about anything that happened during secondary school because a whole lot did happen, but that is a general gist of what's going on. Thank goodness this video is 1 hour long because now I can talk about the other things like the build. So at the moment, I feel like the way that I've kind of set out this build and the way that I created it, I made it in a way that feels very much like it's early in the morning in autumn. You if you used to wear a skirt in secondary school, if you do wear a skirt in secondary school and you wear tights with it, your tights are soaked because you've been walking around in ballet flats. Or if you have a really lenient dress code, you walked around in black Air Forces, and if you did, I'm a bit afraid of you. But you walked around in black Air Forces or some sort of black trainer or anything like that. And the reason why I'm afraid of you for wearing black Air Forces is not because particularly anyone who wears black Air Forces is someone to fear, no, but because if you wear black Air Forces, they're a very chunky trainer to wear. So that means you really don't care what a teacher's gonna say to you about dress code because it's a very it's not as covert as like I don't know Vans or something, all black Vans or something. No, it's like very obviously I'm wearing Air Forces and I don't care what you say. The same as if you wore boots and it wasn't winter, you're very like I don't care. I'm gonna wear what shoe I want, and you know what? That's a vibe. That is a vibe because who cares? Like the school, the way they would tell us, do not have different colored hair, do not have green, do not have pink. Do you think anyone respects this? No. So just wear like wait, don't take this as advice. Do listen to your school because if you do get expelled or anything like that, wasn't on me. Yeah. Okay. Cheers, babe. Okay. Um. But yeah, it feels the vibe of like it's autumn, maybe getting close to half term holiday, which is normally in the last week of October. So when you're going into Halloween, normally Halloween is during half term. You're going into half term holiday, you're getting really comfortable in the schedule now. You don't need to look at your timetable anymore. And it's just foggy outside. If you had to catch the bus as I did, and you had to walk a long way to get to the bus stop because I did have to do that as well. You just probably feel very tired if you're at the period of the time because my journey throughout secondary school is when wired headphones were still a thing. And I know it's still a thing now, but it was like the only option back then. And your wired earphones are just getting tangled, your nose is running, your puffy coat it's not doing anything to insulate anything. You're making sure that you have your tie, you're making sure you have all your stuff, and you're in a really bad circumstance. You may have first lesson, first period PE, so you know that you're about to be running around in the field wearing shorts and a shirt as your PE teacher wears the biggest, fluffiest coat you've ever seen, yelling at you to not shiver or complain that it's cold. Again, as they wear long trousers and the biggest, fluffiest coat you've ever seen. Yeah, like I feel like that's the vibe of it. And the song that I used to listen to all the time as I was going to secondary school, and that is a very particular song for me, is Ellie Goulding Starry Eyed, and that will remain to be my favorite. Like my favorite film is Stardust, and my favorite song is Starry Eyed. So it gives you like that and Lights. I like Ellie Goulding Lights and Ellie Goulding Starry Eyed. But then I also used to listen to Wilkinson Too Close. Oh God, I have to listen to that after I finish this recording because I need to feel the vibes. I need to feel how I felt as I was going through that. But I used to listen to a lot of like electronic pop and stuff like that. A lot of Trap Nation, and trap rap and all of those kinds of things. And I remember, oh my God, I'm feeling really nostalgic now. I remember that I would make my way to school, and I know the previous night I've either watched Vampire Diaries or watched Teen Wolf. Those were like the peak two shows I would watch quite consistently. On the sly, I would be watching Wolf Blood, but Wolf Blood was mainly like end of primary school, early secondary school. I know that I've just finished going on Vine. I know that I'm gonna go to the park after school with my friends and make a little dub smash. And if anyone doesn't know what dub smash is, it's basically like pre TikTok. So when TikTok was called Musically, and before even Musically was a thing, we had dub smash, and dub smash is where you could just do a lot of challenges and do a lot of like content regarding audio recorded stuff. So like the voices that you normally have on TikTok that you mouth to and do your own thing to. That's what we had. We had it with Dub Smash. And I know that I was gonna say I used to go to this place after school, but I'm not naming that place because they're bad people. They're a bad company. But I used to go to that particular place all the time, especially when I had the vouchers from the bus, because the bus used to give you like vouchers at the back where you could get 1.99, and I used to go to that place and get that. But then I also used to get a cone of chips. I kid you, I ate like crazy. I used to have a cone of chips all the time. And the thing is, from being from the West Midlands, yeah, you get them battered. So I had battered chips after school all the time. So not only would I have a crazy big breakfast, I'll have like full English. But then we also had during break time, the initial one, you could have like a lot of different types of food. And do you know one thing you need to know about my secondary school? One thing they could do, they could make snack time food. So we had a fingerprint thing. So you use your fingerprint to get into your account, and that's what brings up how much money you have, and that's what you can use in order to buy food. So sometimes your parents would do it online. Most of the time, my parents would do it online, but sometimes you bring money in and dispense it into the machine, and then the money goes into your account, and that's what you can use in order to buy stuff. So occasionally, if you have free school meals, that's when you would also have the money automatically allocated to your account. But occasionally the worst thing ever was to realize there was no money in your account and like violently calling your parents and be like, I need to eat. Where is, especially if it was a particular day when there was a really good food. That was annoying. That was really annoying. But again, at the end of the day, I can't complain because we did eat, and that's again, one of the things that I believe is important, free school meals and making sure that everyone's able to eat. Anyways, as I was saying, so yeah, we used to use the finger scanner in order to get the food. And one thing that my secondary school did that was absolutely lush was they used to do these wraps, right? But it had like cheese and beans inside of them, and it was like the stretchiest cheese, the perfectly made cooked beans, and as you bit into it, it was just paradise. It was amazing. I really I really loved it. But yeah, that's what we had in terms of food. We also had these pieces of bread with cheese melted on top. Lush, lush, lush. It was absolutely amazing. And then we also had a concrete cake in little packets that we can get. And then we had also flapjacks as well. Those were the two desserts I love the most. But occasionally during summer they also did do cupcakes with a lot of buttercream frosting on top. That was really good. We had pasta king where you could get pasta with cheese on it. I wasn't the biggest fan, I didn't care for it. But I did love wraps. We had, I think every Friday we did have wraps where you could have, and I was really lucky we had a bit of fried chicken in there, and then you could pick what sauce. I had barbecue and mayo, and then after picking my wrap I would go and get my drink, which was a Raider Fizz tropical, or if I just wanted a normal drink, it was just a normal tropical juice box. And then I would get my either concrete cake or my flapjack. Not a fruit inside, guys. Not a fruit inside. And then I'll pay for that for my lunch, and then I'll be off my way. And then after school, I'll get my coney chips, and then after that, I will go and have my dinner. And then after that, I'll have my dessert, and then I'll start all day again. It was a fun time. It was a very fun time. Especially because I lived quite close to Lidl as well. So sometimes I'll pop into Lidl and I'll get myself a marble cake. Or Little Bakery wasn't a really big thing at that point, so it was just normally a marble cake or a multivitamin drink. I recently found out there was a Lidl quite close to me, so I was able to go there with my dad, and I just went crazy in it. I just got everything that reminded me of my childhood. So again, the marble cake, multivitamin drink, the sausages a little crazy. That is my everything. I wasn't able to get the pieces because I already ranked up to like £40. That is a lot just for snacks. Like, I don't get what it is. That was a lot for snacks. Little's gone expensive, but I needed that hit of nostalgia, and that really helped with creating this build and doing everything to do with it. I didn't actually get to talk a lot about the build in the end. It sucks to be me, and I haven't even talked about adventure weights yet, which is also sucks to be me. But if you made it this far in the video, that means you really like me and that means you really like my content. So please tell me in the comments below, what do you want me to create for adventure awaits? Because it feels like it's basically like hotels, resorts kind of vibe. So as you guys know, I love making big builds that aren't residentials. Like, I don't care for mansions, but high schools, restaurants, hotels, I love. So give me any idea below of what you want to do. What I have in mind, so you guys have a good gist of it, I want to make a spa hotel because obviously we're able to make like different types of we're able to make different types, what do you call it? We're able to add like different types of traits to the lot, so things you can do. So I think spa hotel would be amazing. In the spirit of Halloween, I also want to make like a summer camp, but like the ones where you have like the slasher horror things from. So like imagine American Horror Story, the camp version, or is it Freddy Krueger? So whatever his name is, like that kind of thing. That's what I'm also gonna like do. And then I've also got another idea for like a Love Island type of thing. But again, just I'm very open, but I do have 3 bills that I will make for it just so I can, stay on track, because when Christmas comes, Christmas comes. But yeah, so just give me any ideas you have below. Also, if you are planning to buy the adventure weights, I do have a creator code. It is just Emerald Stories altogether, caps on the E, but I don't think that matters. So if you use that, that will give me a small commission. But if you don't want to, if you're not planning to get it, honestly, I get it. I understand money's tight lately. Like, we're in a cost of living. I get it. But if you choose to, that will really help me out. But yeah, anyway, I hope you guys like this video. I like this bed, and tell me if it feels nostalgic or realistic to you if you did grow up in the UK. But yeah, this is my realistic British secondary school. I need to stop calling it high school. I need to go to bed. That's what I need to do. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, but if you don't want to, that's also okay. I appreciate you staying this long and listening to all of my ramblings. Also, don't forget to leave a comment down below. I read all of your comments, the more the merrier. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.